Welcome back to another episode of With a Grain of Salt. I am your host, Isaiah Salter, and I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in for yet another week. Another With a Grain of Salt episode. This week is titled Releasing External Pressure and Trusting in Your Own Path. Releasing external pressure and trusting in your own path. I took a trip out to LA last week, which is why I didn't put out a podcast episode last week, but I took a trip out to LA, and for those who don't know, I was featured on a Netflix show. I put it on my story. I wasn't one of the main stories or anything like that. They cut out a lot of the parts that I was a part of, which I'm actually grateful for, just seeing kind of how it all unfolded. But it was an amazing experience, once in a lifetime. It was really fun. But I went out to LA to meet up with everybody. We did this little, cast get together, and just being out there, I was surrounded by just such a different energy, and it really made me start to think about how easy it is to allow all of these things outside of ourselves to create this pressure for what our lives need to be, and feeling like we need to be somewhere other than now, and we need to rush our journeys and rush our process and rush our life. And a lot of times when you fall susceptible to everything going on outside of yourself, societal expectations, what other people are doing, it's very easy to start to sway off of your own path, trusting in your own timeline, and start to feel like you need to rush or force your journey. So it really sparked this week's episode with talking about, releasing that external pressure and getting back to trusting in your own path, because you are on your own unique timeline, your own unique pace, right? Your soul has its own unique path. And the more and more we focus on things outside of ourselves, the more and more we disconnect from that intuitive knowing of, no, we need to be moving this way and just trusting in this. So that's what we're going to get back to today. So without any further ado, let's dive in. Point number 1, the pressure we feel is often self-created. One of the biggest realizations you can have in life is that most of the pressure we feel is not actually coming from life itself. It's coming from the external expectations or social structures we've internalized. Society and social media tell us that by a certain age, we should have the career figured out, the money figured out, the relationships figured out, the purpose figured out. And when you look around and feel like you're not there yet, you start to feel behind. And this leads to feeling internal pressure. Think about that. When you're going off of society's timeline and what people are doing on social media, that breeds this internal feeling of being behind. Oh, I need to rush. Dang, where I'm at right now is not good enough, and I need to hurry this up. I need my life to look like theirs, right? And it breeds this internal pressure that we allow to fuel our actions. And when your actions and how you're moving is being fueled by pressure that's being created by external circumstances, external expectations, social media, it's never going to feel aligned. It's never going to feel like you're moving in purpose, right? It's going to feel like you're moving in a very rushful, forced way. But the deeper truth to this all is that society's timeline is not universal law, and your path is unfolding in a way that is unique to you. Let's just stop there. Society's timeline is not universal law. This is a very deep truth that you have to constantly remind yourself of. Hold on. Society's timeline, what social media is saying I need to do, is not universal law. And I need to get back to trusting in my own path and understanding that my journey is unfolding in a way that is unique to me, right? What that person doing, what they say we should be doing, how far along they say we should be, is not universal law. That's just societal conditioning, a product of the system that we live in, what people on social media are trying to portray. But we don't need to take that at face value and accept that as our truth. Nah, we got to tap back into understanding and reminding ourselves that our journey, our path is unfolding in a way that is unique to us. So let me remove my focus from societal's timeline and get back to connecting with the pace that feels aligned with me and the highest version of myself. Come on. When we constantly compare our journey to the timeline of others or societal expectations, we start carrying a weight that was never meant for us to hold. How many of us feel like we're carrying this weight of, oh, I need to be there. I need to have everything figured out. I need to know how everything's going to work. I need to rush and get to this place so that I feel good. Right? But a lot of that is coming from us constantly comparing our journeys to the timelines of others or societal expectations. And when we do that, we start carrying a weight that was never meant for us to carry. It was never ours to carry. A lot of the weight that we feel from life isn't the weight that we are meant to carry, but we're just taking it on because our focus is so much on things that really have nothing to do with our own path, right? We're falling susceptible to all of this noise that's just taking us away from just trusting in the step that's right in front of us, trusting in our own unique timeline, trusting in our own unique pace, right? And then we start to carry this weight that was never meant for us to carry. And because we're carrying this weight, we feel heavy. And because we feel heavy, we're trying to do all of these things to release that heaviness. And that heaviness is making us start to do things that are not aligned with our own unique path. And then that will never lead to aligned outcomes or aligned destinations, right? And it's going to create a lot of, disconnect in our journey because we're being disconnected from ourselves. That's the thing you have to remember. A lot of times when you feel disconnected from life, you feel like there's a disconnect within, that's a sign that you're disconnected from yourself. And what I mean by that is you have your own unique path, your own unique timeline, your own unique journey. And when you disconnect from that because you're being distracted by all of this stuff going on outside of yourself, that's going to lead to feeling disconnected within you. And when you feel disconnected within yourself, that's never a good state to be in to make actions and take steps out of. And a lot of people are trying to figure out their life from a state of being disconnected from themselves. And then they wonder why things don't work out in the way that they want them to. Because if you're disconnected within yourself, it's never going to lead to aligned, connected things outside of yourself, right? So that's what we have to be mindful of. That's what we have to be aware of on our journey, right? And when we feel disconnected, that's not a sign that we need to beat ourselves up, or that's not where we need to start tripping and getting all frantic and trying to figure everything out in the moment. No, we just need to catch it with awareness, take a deep breath, understand where that's coming from, and then bring ourselves back to the present moment with intention, which we're going to talk more about. External pressure slowly disconnects us from our heart and intuition and moves us into overthinking mode. Instead of operating from the stance of what feels true to me, what feels aligned to me, we start operating from, I need to figure out my whole life now. I need my life to look like that person's. I need to be at that point in society's timeline. And the moment you start living from need and desperation, you begin abandoning the quiet wisdom inside of you. You begin abandoning the quiet wisdom inside of you. So many people, and so often, the reason we feel so lost is because we have abandoned the quiet wisdom inside of us. We all have intuition. Our heart knows. Our soul knows. And you have to reconnect with that. You have to tap into that, right? But when you're constantly living your life based off of the external world, what other people say, what other people are doing, what social media is portraying, what societal expectations are saying you should be. When you're living based off of that, it's going to disconnect you from that internal knowing of what you should be doing, right? And you're going to be trying to follow after something that isn't truly you. And if you're constantly chasing after something that isn't truly you, it's never going to feel aligned. It's always going to feel like a force. It's always going to feel like you need to rush. It's always going to feel like you need to fight. And it's going to be really rigid, on that path. So we're going to take that as a sign that, okay, maybe I'm focusing too much on things outside of myself, outside of my path. Let me bring myself back. Let me reconnect with that internal knowing, my soul, my heart, my intuition, right? That's one of the greatest gifts that we've been given is intuition. Intuition is the part of you that's divinely connected to source. And when you tap into it, you're going to move at the pace that your soul was meant to move at. When you release that pressure, you give yourself permission to move at the pace of your soul rather than the pace of the world. When you release the pressure that comes from external expectations, social media, societal's timeline, what people think and say you should be doing. When you release that pressure, you give yourself permission to move at the pace of your soul and your unique journey rather than the pace of the world. We got to break free from that programming and conditioning to make us think that we need to be constantly moving at the pace of the world. No, we don't. No, we don't. We could remove ourselves from that box right now. We don't need to be moving at the pace that everybody else is moving. We don't need to be moving at the pace of the world and all of these things external to us. No, we could tap back into what really feels true and aligned to me. And let me just move in that. Let me move in that. Because your authentic path is usually going to move in a pace that's a lot different than what the world is trying to tell you should be doing. And that's something you have to always remind yourself of. Hold on, let me not get so caught up in thinking I need to be there or allowing all of these things outside of me to rush my process, rush my journey, making me feel like I'm behind, making me feel like where I'm at is inadequate, and taking me completely off of my authentic path. Because your authentic path is always going to move at a pace that feels aligned with your soul, not that feels aligned with the world. It says most people are taught that pressure is required for success, that if you're not feeling pressure, you're not pushing hard enough. But not all pressure is the same, right? Not all pressure is the same. This is a very important key. So take notes if you need to take notes. There's a type of pressure that comes from comparison, expectation, and external timelines. And that kind of pressure pulls you away from yourself. It sounds like, I should be further along. They're ahead of me. I need to figure this all out now. When you operate from that space, your decisions aren't rooted in truth. They're rooted in urgency. It's a big distinction we have to make, right? Your decisions, are my decisions rooted in truth, or are they rooted in urgency? Because I'm following external expectations, external timelines, right? Feeling like I need to be somewhere other than I am now. Or am I making decisions out of a place that's really true and aligned to who I am? When you operate from that space, right, where you're making decisions from urgency, not truth, you start choosing paths to keep up, to prove something, or to meet expectations. Not because they genuinely align with who you're becoming, but because you're trying to follow this path that isn't yours, right? When you feel like you are choosing paths or making decisions to keep up, to prove something, or to meet expectations, that's usually a sign that you're disconnected from your own unique journey. Because your own unique journey, your authentic and aligned path, is never going to ask you to make decisions to keep up or to prove something, right? So if we catch ourselves taking actions from a place of urgency, from a place of desperation, from a place of lack, from a place of needing to feel like we need to be somewhere further along because of what we're seeing, that's usually a sign that we are not moving in an authentic and aligned way. We're moving in a way that's based off of the external world, what other people are doing, right? Your path was never meant to look like anybody else's. Your path was not meant to move at the pace of anybody else's. So you have to be very mindful of not falling susceptible to that trap that society tries to put us all in when it comes to comparison, timelines, expectations, making you feel like, nah, I gotta be there. I need my life to look like theirs. I need to rush my process. I need to rush the journey. And all that creates this internal pressure. And that pressure feels incredibly uncomfortable. Incredibly uncomfortable. And it's not the same as the pressure that comes from growth, that comes from alignment, which we're about to talk about. Now, that's the pressure that takes us fully away from our path and makes us start to do things that are not true to us. But there's another type of pressure, like we just said. And this is the one that people often confuse. There is pressure that comes from growth. This pressure doesn't feel like panic. It feels like stretching. It doesn't sound like I'm behind. It sounds like I'm being called forward. I'm being called for more. It doesn't disconnect you from yourself. It requires you to become more of yourself. Growth pressure shows up when you're stepping into something bigger, when you're evolving, and when you're shedding old versions of yourself. It can feel uncomfortable, even intense at times, but underneath, there's this sense of rightness. One type of pressure makes you feel rushed and anxious. The other makes you feel challenged and aligned, right? challenged, and aligned, right? Like, that's the importance of getting quiet enough to really listen to your intuition, listen to what your soul is calling out for, because there is going to be pressure in your life when you're trying to grow and you're trying to be a better version of yourself. But when you're moving in alignment and that pressure is aligned with you becoming more, there's just this internal sense that, nah, this is right. This is a part of my development. This is a part of me growing into a better version of myself. But a lot of times, because we get so disconnected from that internal voice, we're not able to get still enough and actually listen, right? All of the answers are within. That's a very peaceful truth to embody. All of the answers that I am searching for are within myself. I just have to get quiet enough to hear it. I have to get quiet enough to hear it. I have to be still. I have to allow the water to calm so I can see through it clearly. It's the same with our lives. Sometimes we just need to take a step back and get still enough to allow our life and our internal state of being to calm down so that clarity can actually arise. A lot of people are searching for clarity, but they're not creating the internal environment for clarity to arise. So they're trying to find clarity in all these things outside of themselves, trying to force outcomes, force situations, force clarity. And clarity is never meant to be forced. It's meant to be allowed. That's the thing. Clarity is not meant to be forced. It's meant to be allowed. How do you allow clarity to arise in your life? You have to get still enough to create the environment for clarity to arise. A lot of people don't create an environment that is conducive to clarity rising in their life. If I'm always doing things, if I'm always being stimulated, if I'm always on my phone, if I'm always around people, if I'm always moving at 1,000,000 miles per hour and I never give myself time to just be, when am I ever giving myself space to allow clarity to come up? Right? But because we lack the awareness that that's what's going on, we get more caught up in that cycle. I just got to do more. Oh, I gotta watch more videos. I gotta force it. I just gotta do this. I gotta ask more people. Whoa. Maybe you just need to take a full step back. And that's what that internal pressure will make you do. Make you start to just act very frantic and doing all this stuff. Remember, you are a human being, not a human doing. Clarity comes from being. Yes, there is a balance to clarity. Also comes when you start taking movement. But a lot of times, the aligned actions that you need to take come from you being in alignment with your true state of being, with the being that's aligned with the version of you that you're trying to, or the life that you're trying to live, the highest version of you, right? When you align your internal state of being with the version of you that is living in the desired reality that you want to attract, you're going to start taking actions out of that state of being, right? Most people's actions are a reflection of their internal state of being, their identity. Right? If I identify as somebody who's lazy, if I identify as somebody who procrastinates, if I identify as somebody who's not consistent, that's going to show up in my actions. But if I shift my identity, shift my state of being to somebody who is consistent, somebody who does show up, right? Somebody who does take, actionable steps every day, one little step a day. Somebody who does stay true to their word. If I start identifying like that internally, which is a day-by-day process, the more and more I embody that state of being, the more and more that's going to reflect itself in the actions that I take. We're going to do a whole podcast on that. We've done that before, but we got to get back to it because that's what I work on with the people that I mentor and coach, which if you want to be mentored one-on-one with me, I will be having more spots open up close to the end of the month, close to the end of March, going into April. So be on the lookout for that once my website gets back up and running. But that's the biggest thing we work on is, okay, first we need to become aware of the state of being that we're currently in. Because the state of being that you're currently in is why your life is the way it is, why you're moving the way you are. And then we need to become clear on, okay, who do we want to become? What is the version of us that aligns with the life that we want to live? How would that person think? How would that person act? How would that person feel on an everyday basis? Right? What daily steps would that person take? Right? And then every day with that new intention, we need to take steps towards embodying that version of ourselves. What's going to happen over time is at first it's going to feel very uncomfortable because that's not the norm, right? You're stepping away from old programming and stepping into something new. And that in-between phase is very uncomfortable when you're stepping away from old ways of living, old ways of thinking, old ways of being, right? But the more and more you keep showing up for yourself, the more and more you're going to start embodying that version of you that's aligned with the life that you want to live. When you embody the version of you that's aligned with the life you want to live and you're taking actions out of that, guess what? You are going to attract things that are in alignment with that version of you. Opportunities, relationships, circumstances, experiences, right? And that's how you shift your external reality by changing your internal reality, which is literally what we do in the mentorship. So getting back to the pressure, right? One type of pressure makes you feel rushed and anxious. The other makes you feel challenged but aligned. One says, hurry up or you'll fall behind. The other says, step up, you're ready for more. And the key in your journey is learning how to distinguish between the two. And the only way to distinguish between the two is to get still enough to allow that clarity to arise. Yep, this is the right path. Nah, that doesn't really feel aligned, right? We got to give ourselves the space to do that. Right? We got to give ourselves the space to do that. Pressure from the world creates anxiety. Trust in your path creates peace. When you are truly trusting in your path and you're moving in a way that's aligned with the highest version of you, that creates peace. So if you are trying to take steps towards something or moving in a way that's creating a lot of anxiety in your life, we got to lean into that. Maybe the reason I'm feeling so anxious is because I'm not actually moving in a way that's aligned with who I'm trying to become and the life that I'm trying to live. That's aligned with my soul. That's aligned with my own unique path. So I need to lean into that anxiety, right? We don't need to run from anxiety. This goes back to, us always talking about understanding your emotions, right? Shifting your relationship to your emotions so that you can use them as guides and signals rather than things that you need to run from or avoid, right? So when anxiety comes up, that same with me. I know that when I'm really anxious, it's usually because I'm giving a lot of energy to things outside of my control, scrolling too much on social media, looking at what everybody else is doing, allowing the external pressure to infiltrate my system and make me start to rush, right? I'm disconnecting from myself. So I lean into that anxiety. I get clear on where is it coming from, get to the root of it, and then bring myself back to my path with intention. It's a beautiful thing right there. So thank you, anxiety, for helping me, for giving me the signal that, hey, I'm getting a little bit too much off my path, right? And that's just one emotion. We have a whole spectrum of emotions. But remember, your emotions are signals. Your emotions are information, right? They're not instructions. We don't need to listen to our emotions in the sense of allowing them to dictate your actions. We need to sit with them and understand where they're coming from. Where is this signal within me coming from? What is it wanting me to tend to? Right? Because a lot of people, they identify with their emotions. So when they're anxious, they're like, oh, I'm just an anxious person. Then they act out of that. No, I'm just always stressed. So I just act out of that. Oh, I'm just a fearful person. So I just act out of that. No. You are not your emotions. You are the observer behind your emotions. So we observe our emotions without judgment, lean into them with openness and curiosity, and we follow the signal to where it's trying to lead us to, and then we do the work. We do the inner work. Come on. That's how you shift your relationship to your emotions, right? That's how you stop looking at these things as negative things and start to understand that there are ways to help you to reconnect to yourself. This internal pressure that you feel when you're constantly basing your timeline off of societal's timeline or society expectations or social media, that internal pressure you feel isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a sign that you're swaying from your path. You're disconnecting from yourself, right? So we're going to use that as a signal to come back, right? But the moment you judge it as bad, that's how you experience it. So you get into this fight with it. Rather than using it as a way to help you, it becomes something that hinders you. And it's all about perspective. It's all about relationship, which we talk about. Come on. An analogy for point number 1. Think about a plant growing in nature. It doesn't look at the plant next to it and try to grow faster. It grows according to its own unique timeline. Think about a plant growing in nature. It doesn't look at the plant next to it and try to grow faster. It grows according to its own unique timing. If you tried to force that plant to grow faster by pulling on it, you would actually damage it. Human growth works the same way. Imagine planting, right? Planting a seed and then constantly digging it up every day to see if it's growing faster. Now you got to allow that seed to grow at its own unique timeline. Just continue to tend to it in the way that you're meant to. Water, good soil, sunlight. But if you kept digging it up to see if it's growing, you're actually damaging it and stopping the growth. Come on. A practice for point number 1. Take 5 minutes each day to ask yourself one question. What actually feels aligned for me right now? Not what looks impressive, not what others expect, just what feels honest. Let me really sit with that. Write the answer down and practice trusting in it. Let me really sit with that. What really feels true to me in this season? What do I need from me in this season? How do I need to move in this season? What steps do I need to take in this season that are really aligned with who I am? Not what others expect of me. Not what social media is saying I need to be. Not what societal expectations are trying to push me into. No, what really feels true to me? And let me live in that. Come on. Point number 2. Desires of the heart should guide you, not rush you. This is a huge point. I was talking with my mom about this. That's how this point came about. Desires of the heart should guide you, not rush you. There's a difference between having a vision and a desire and being consumed by it. When something is placed on your heart, whether it's building something, creating something, or becoming something, it can feel powerful and exciting. But sometimes those desires turn into pressure. Instead of inspiring you, they start making you feel like you need to hurry. And the irony is that the very desire and vision meant to guide you starts robbing you of your peace in the present. How often do we allow the desires of our heart, the visions in our head, to make us start to rush things, right? Because when we have desires and we have visions, it is very, powerful and exciting, especially in those beginning phases, right? And you have to be very mindful of not allowing that excitement to make you start to rush the process. Your dreams, your desires, your visions were not meant to rush you. They were meant to guide you. They help to give you inspiration in a direction to move towards, right? So the irony in it is that the desires and the visions that were meant to guide you start robbing you of your peace. And when that happens, that's when we need to take a step back and remind ourselves, hold on, these desires that I have, the vision that I have, right, the dreams that I have were not meant to rush me. So if I'm feeling rushed, then probably means I'm getting disconnected from my path a little bit. Let me take a step back, right? The desires of your heart were never meant to make you anxious. They were meant to give you direction. A compass doesn't rush the traveler. It simply points north. I like that. That's a beautiful analogy. A compass does not rush the traveler. It doesn't try to push the traveler to go faster. It just points north. Hey, that's the direction we're going. It's the same with your desires and visions. Right? Your desires and visions are not meant to rush you. They're not meant to make you start to try to rush the process and rush to get somewhere. No. They're just there to point you in a direction to move towards. Right? That's what inspiration is. I'm inspired to move in the direction of my dreams, of my goals, of my visions. But we're not going to rush the process, because if you rush the process, you get rush results. We don't want rush results. We don't want microwavable success. Now, we want marinated success. So we're going to use our desires and our visions as a guide in the direction to move towards, in the versions of ourselves that we need to embody. But we're going to allow that process to happen, and we're going to take it one day at a time, one step at a time. We're not going to rush. No, we're going to do what we're meant to do that's aligned with where we're trying to go in the present, because the present is all that we have. And we're going to trust in that every single day. And we understand that anything that's worthwhile is going to take some time, because it has to be developed. You have to be developed, right? What good is a vision if you get it the next day? What good is a dream if you attain it the next day? There's no way that's a worthwhile vision or dream if you get it in a week. Nah, it's usually the things that take a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, a decade to really step into. that were really worthwhile and actually create the sustainability to last a lifetime, right? So we have to be mindful of that. When you trust the process of becoming, those desires become inspiration instead of pressure. So true. It says a lot of people believe urgency equals passion. I've fallen into this trap before. A lot of people believe urgency equals passion, but urgency often comes from fear. Fear that time is running out, fear that you're behind, fear that if you don't rush, it won't happen. Real passion actually has patience inside of it. When something is truly meant for you, you can pursue it with devotion without feeling like you're racing against life. When you have a dream, when you have a vision, when you have a desire, understand that those things were placed on your heart because you're capable of achieving them, of stepping into them, of becoming that, right? And you have to understand that when something is truly meant for you, you don't need to rush it. You don't need to move with this pressure that, oh, I got to hurry up. Oh, I got to make it happen now. No. Move with that inspiration every day, with that devotion every day. And understand that real passion has patience inside of it. Anything that you're truly passionate about that's actually worthwhile is going to require you to be patient because things need time to develop. Things need time to cultivate. You need time to develop. You need time to cultivate. So we have to be patient with that process. We have to be patient with the journey. Right? It's so easy. This goes back to the first point. It's so easy to feel like we need to rush our journey, rush our process, because we're basing our timeline off of society's timeline, off of social media's timeline. And anytime you're basing your journey off of what society is saying or what social media is portraying, you're always going to feel behind because you're always going to be able to see someone who looks like they're doing better or who looks like they're further along, right? And that's the trap. So we got to remove ourselves from that trap, reconnect with our path, and trust in our own unique timing and have patience, right? And patience is cultivated by being present. When you are present and you're focusing on all the things that are inside of your control and you're just moving in that every day, that in itself is going to create this energy of patience to where you're not rushing, where you're not trying to force. No, you're just trusting in the step right in front of you, and you continue to take that. You continue to be present. You continue to stay devoted to your path, right? You continue to remind yourself that all that I have is the present moment. All that I have is this moment. I don't have an hour from now. I don't have a week from now. I don't have 2 months from now. All I have is this moment. So let me take all of the energy that I have and focus on being the best I can in this moment. And I'm going to do that every single day to the best of my ability. And I promise you that is going to carry you right to where you need to be when you're meant to be there. But what usually happens is we remove ourselves from the present moment because we're so focused on all of this stuff that's outside of ourselves. How far along that person is, what that person has, what society is saying you should be doing, the expectations of others. Right? We start judging our path and our journey to all of this stuff that is in us. And it takes us away from the present moment. And when you get taken away from the present moment, you're not able to be patient. That's what breeds impatience. When you're so focused on, I got to get there. Of course you're going to feel impatient because you're not present. I got to be there. Now I can't even be present because I got to get there. I can't be happy because I got to get there. I can't be at peace because I got to get there. And you get into this rat race, right? And that's all coming from you focusing on all this stuff that's outside of your path, right? Because remember, where your focus goes, energy follows. So whatever you are focusing on, you're giving energy to. So the more you focus on the present, the more you focus on the things that are inside of your control, the more you're giving those things energy. The more you give those things energy, the more being present and the more focusing on things inside of your control is going to lead to feeling patient. Is going to lead to moving in faith. Is going to lead to not rushing the process, right? Because you're giving energy to that. And whatever you give energy to in your life amplifies. Remember that. Whatever you give energy to your life amplify. So if all of your energy is going to what people are doing on social media, societal expectations, the timeline of others, if that's where your most of your focus is going, that's what you're giving energy to, that's what's going to magnify in your life. That's what's going to lead to feeling anxious, feeling like you need to rush, feeling like you need to hurry up, right? But the moment you shift your focus to what's inside of your control, to the step right in front of you, and most of your focus is on those things, that's what you're going to start feeding energy into. That's what's going to start to grow. And what's aligned with that, what's in congruence with giving energy to things that are inside of your control and what's right in front of you, is patience, faith, moving at your own unique pace, peace. And that's a beautiful energy to move in as you're becoming more and more of who you were made to be. Come on. Your vision is not something you need to force into existence overnight. It's something you grow into. Your vision is not something that you need to force into existence overnight. It's something that you grow into. Give yourself the time and the space to grow in to the version of you that's aligned with the vision that you have. Give yourself that time and space. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with your journey. Right? Patience is a virtue. Patience. The vision has a certain version of yourself aligned with it. And that vision becomes your daily intention for how you show up every day. Alignment with the future equals embodiment in the present. Alignment with the future, right? We have a vision of where we're trying to go, who we're trying to be, in the life that we're trying to live, right? We have that vision. We cultivated it. Alignment is embodying the version of us that's aligned with that vision in the present moment, every day. The more and more you align where you are with the vision of who you're trying to be and who you're trying to become, the more and more the gap between you and that version of you closes, right? And you keep taking steps in that until that is who you become. And when that's who you become, you best believe you will have things that are in alignment with that version of you. That's what alignment looks like. Come on. Your vision should inspire your steps, not rush your soul. Your vision is meant to inspire you, not rush you. Remember that. Your vision is meant to inspire you, not rush you. Your desire is meant to inspire you, not rush you. Don't fall susceptible to that trap to where you have these visions, these dreams, these goals, and rather than inspiring you and giving you direction, they start to rush you. Make you try to force outcomes and force situations. Like, hold up. That's not why they were placed on your heart. That's not why they were placed on your heart. An analogy for point number 2. Think about running a marathon. If you sprint the first 5 miles because you're excited about the finish line, you'll burn out before you ever get there. The people who actually reach the finish line are the ones who pace themselves. Life works the same way, right? Think about running a marathon. If you allowed the excitement of you running a marathon to make you sprint the first 5 miles, you'd burn out before you ever got to the end, right? But the people who actually finish the race are the ones who pace themselves. It's the same in life. Yes, we're going to have desires. Yes, we're going to have visions. And they're meant to inspire us. They're meant to give us direction. But we have to be very mindful of not rushing the journey, rushing to get there. No, pace yourself. Be patient with your journey. Be patient with the process. Allow things to develop and cultivate in your life. Plant the seed, be patient with it. Don't keep digging it up to see if it's grown. Because every time you dig it up, you hinder the growth. You damage it. Right? Plant the seed and just focus on watering it, making sure the soil is healthy, giving it sunlight, and allow it to grow at its own unique pace. It's the same with your life, right? Plant the intention for who you want to be and the life you want to live, and just take daily aligned steps every single day and allow things to unfold as they're meant to unfold for your unique journey, your unique path, because you are a one of one on a one of one journey. A practice for point number 2. Whenever you feel yourself rushing your future, pause and say, I trust the unfolding of my life. Take 3 deep breaths and bring your attention back to the moment you're currently living in with intention. Because the present moment is the only place your future is actually built. The present moment is the only place that your future is actually built. So many people strip themselves from the beauty of the present because they're so focused on the future. Not realizing if you actually want to do what's best for your future, it's actually going to require you to be present, because the present is the only place your future is built, right? That future that you're trying to get to is just a future present moment, right? The future doesn't exist. The present moment does. And the more we make aligned steps and actions in the present moment, the more we're going to step into that future that we want to experience when we become that person, or when that time comes, right? But you have to understand that the future is just the present moment down the road. So the best thing you can do for your future is be present. The best thing you can do for your future is take aligned steps in the moment. Come on. But that's a great practice. Take a deep breath. Hold on. I trust the unfolding of my own unique path. Let me take a couple deep breaths, ground myself, bring myself back to the moment, and live with that, right? And it's okay if we catch ourselves swaying off the path like we always talk about. We're not going to beat ourselves up. Hey, falling into comparison a little bit, rushing the journey a little bit, allowing external expectations to cloud my vision a little bit. Let me take a deep breath with attention, bring myself back with intention, and we're right back on the path. Come on. Man, the power of a deep breath. And point number 3, contentment in the present unlocks the future. Contentment in the present unlocks the future. A truth we often overlook is that the future you desire is unlocked through gratitude for where you already are. When you're constantly focused on where you aren't, life begins to feel like something you're always chasing but never living. But when you learn how to appreciate the season you're currently in, even if it's uncertain, even if things aren't fully figured out, something shifts inside of you. You stop feeling like life is something you need to get through, and instead it becomes something you get to experience. Life was not meant to be something that we just get through. It was meant to be something we get to experience every day. Focus more on experiencing than getting. Focus more on experiencing than attaining, and your life will change drastically. Contentment doesn't mean you stop growing or become lazy. It simply means you start accepting where you are and embracing the present moment. And ironically, the acceptance creates the internal peace that allows your path to unfold more clearly. I love that, right? I need to be content with where I am. Contentment does not mean don't strive to become more. It does not mean be lazy. It does not mean be stagnant. It means accepting where you are, being present with this current season that I'm in. Understanding that the best thing I could do for my future, the best thing I can do to want to change or become more is be present, because the present moment is all that I have. So I need to take all of my energy and focus on cultivating the most out of what I have right in front of me, the present moment. I need to take a deep breath and be content with where I am, because it's that contentment that creates internal peace, and that internal peace is going to guide you along your journey, and it's going to allow for things to unfold exactly as they're meant to, rather than you getting in the way of your own journey because now you're discontent about where you are. You're trying to rush the process. You're focusing on what other people got going on. You're trying to be something you're not. You're trying to do stuff that isn't aligned. And now what? Hold up. You're digging yourself a hole deeper and deeper. Let's stop digging, take a deep breath, realize where we're at, and work with that. Discontent often comes from believing that happiness exists somewhere in the future. If I just get this opportunity, if I just reach this milestone, oh, if I just get there. But when you finally arrive at those things, the mind often just moves the goalpost again. So true. Contentment breaks that cycle because it no longer becomes about getting the goal, but rather embracing each and every step along the way. That's so good. The journey is the reward, not the destination. The journey is the reward, not the destination. That's what contentment allows you to do. Being content helps you to embrace the journey over trying to get to a destination. When you're discontent about where you are, you place your happiness and your peace on the opposite end of getting something. So you can't be happy, you can't be at peace, you can't feel abundant, you can't be okay until this thing happens. Contentment says, no, I'm going to be present, I'm going to be grateful for where I am, I'm going to cultivate peace in this moment, and then I'm going to take aligned actions out of that energy. When you're grounded in gratitude for the present moment, you stop trying to escape your life and you start building it with intention. I love that. The present moment becomes a foundation instead of something you're trying to run past. How many people are just trying to run past the present moment because they don't like where they are? Rather than understanding, hold on, I need to work on being present because the present is the foundation that the future version or the future vision that I'm trying to embody is built on. And when you're grounded, being grounded helps you to be more present, and that presence helps to breed more clarity, helps to breed more opportunities, helps you to see things more aligned and move in that every day. Peace comes when you stop rushing toward your life and start living inside of it. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. An analogy for point number 3. Imagine driving a car while only staring at the destination on the GPS. If you ignore the road you're actually on, you're far more likely to crash. The destination matters, but the road in front of you is what actually gets you there. That's a great analogy. Imagine driving a car while only staring at the GPS, at the destination on the GPS. If you ignore the road that's actually right in front of you, you're way more likely to crash. You will crash. The destination does matter, yes, right? The destination helps the GPS to tell you where you need to go. But the road right in front of you is what actually gets you there. That's where your focus needs to be. So yes, it's important to have a vision for where you want to go and the version of you that you want to be. But then that vision helps us to understand the steps that we need to take in the present moment. It's not meant for us to constantly be focusing on taking us away from the present. It's meant for us to be more present. Okay, I have this vision of the life I want to live and the version that I want to be. What's the best things that I can do in this moment that align with that version of me? And I'm going to take steps in that every single day to the best of my ability. Come on. A practice for point number 3. Each night, remind yourself to practice gratitude for where you are in pursuit of where you're going. Journal on it and bring that intention into the next day. This trains your mind to recognize that life is already happening, not just waiting in the future. Life is happening right where your feet are. It's not in some distant future that you are waiting to happen before you can start living. No, you got to learn how to live in the moment. Live in the moment because the moment is all that you have. All that you have is the present moment. So if you keep stripping yourself from the present moment, you're actually not living, you're just existing, waiting for something in the distant future to happen for you to say, finally, I can live. Finally, I can have peace. Finally, I can be happy. Those things are cultivated in the moment. So we got to learn how to bring our energy back to the moment by shifting our focus to the moment and cultivating those things in the moment. Come on. So maybe the journey of life isn't about figuring everything out as fast as possible. Maybe it's about learning how to trust your heart, move at the pace of your soul, and appreciate the path as it unfolds. Because the truth is, the life meant for you isn't something you have to rush into. It's something you get to grow into. Come on. And that, my brothers and sisters, is going to do it for this week's episode. I appreciate each and every one of you. I love each and every one of you. And remember, most importantly, to take everything with a grain of salt. I will catch you guys next week. Deuces.